Nancy Taylor Porter, and I actually heard about it through an email from Melissa Pantier, who is the Director of Grants and Governmental Relations at our institution. And she'd sent an email to all the faculty, and as soon as I read it, I was like, this is what I'm doing. This would be a perfect match. For some years past, as a teacher of the first year seminar at our college, I had been doing similar projects. We had conceived of the first year seminar as a way in which to teach our students about service. It's one of the missions of our college, that they will learn to become active members in their community and they will lead fulfilling lives of leadership and service. And so in my field of theater, I thought, what could I do to help to dovetail with that mission? And I decided it was to find voices of marginalized people and to give them a stage. So we had done this project of interviewing various groups and then representing their voices in a play that we did at the end of the semester. And I saw that this was ideally suited to that same project of gathering stories and putting them into potentially some kind of performance. So I had been in conversation with some teachers in our Global Studies program. I knew there was a professor in particular who had a connection with local people from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and he had been to Africa. And God love him, Devin Bryson, I've been very impressed with his dedication to this community. He gave up his Saturday mornings to teach English to recent immigrants. There was a woman in the community who opened her home to them, and they had come here and they were working in a very punishing job in a meatpacking plant a few miles away from Jacksonville. And this had become kind of a central place for them. So we were on a tighter time frame than a lot of projects have, because it all had to be completed within the course of a semester. And in order to be able to try to get to know the participants better, Devin had suggested that we have some meeting times outside of our interviews. So some of the class went to go see them when they were at this English language learning session on Saturday, and another group of students went to see them on Sunday as they worshiped at a Baptist church that was just for their community. And then we were also partnering. His wife, Emily Adams, taught French students, and they had partners with the Congolese who engaged in conversation, and that was part of their learning in the course. And so these students actually worked with my students in the first year seminar, and they served as interpreters for us when we were doing our interviews. And I think this other time that we spent was also especially important, because they're not just Americans that are different and maybe outside the experience of the people we have at our college. Jacksonville is a small town. It draws from some small towns around it, Illinois College, and a lot of the students are kind of sheltered, and they don't have a lot of experience with people outside of their sort of own demographic, their own sort of, intersection of identities. And I think it was super helpful to have this other contextual element to help us learn more about them, which is one of the pieces of advice that you get from the Facing Project. And so even though I had done this before, I felt as if the direction that I got from the Facing Project was really helpful in terms of really making me think about all aspects of the project, of asking questions, of offering support. It really helped to give that structure. And one of the things that I think was also helpful, in addition to laying out everything we ought to be doing, which I was somewhat familiar with, is they paired us with a coordinator who helped to oversee the work, was available for questions, and also read the script. And when you're in the middle of a project writing it, even if you've done it before, it's easy to think that what you're writing is going to be communicated easily to everyone who hears it. It's not necessarily the case. And that's why having someone who's really an outside eye but was very familiar with this kind of project was really invaluable. So she was able to read the script and show us things that were going well and give us encouragement about that, and also say, hey, this part doesn't really work so well, and here's what's the problem with it. And not just diagnose what the problem was, but give us solutions for how we could change it and to make it better. And I think that was something that the students in the class really enjoyed and thought carefully about. Some of the readings that we did were also about what it means to take someone's story and to present it, and the way that you have to be truthful to it, not necessarily literal. I mean, we took a lot of the text was word for word from the interviews, but we also used the ideas that we learned about, and we created scenes based on those ideas. So it was a conglomeration, but I think there was always the intent to be truthful to the people who had shared their stories with us and to represent them accurately. And I believe the students understood that responsibility and they took it very seriously. I feel like that was the thing that was most impactful, is that these students, as I said, many of them, it was just completely new territory for them. Even more now than at the time when I did this several years ago, there's a lot of resistance to immigrants. They tend to be cast in very prejudicial ways. I don't think any one of the students who was involved in this project would want it to have said no to the people that they met who came here. And I think it opened their hearts more to people who were outside, people who were hardworking, people who wanted an opportunity just like they did. I think they were very surprised that a lot of the people who came had great jobs. I mean, they were professionals, they lived in cities, they were doctors, they were lawyers, and they came to work in a meatpacking plant. But they explained to us that economic security and just personal security, the safety that they had here was a lot greater than they had in the Congo. The Congo is a dangerous place in a lot of ways. It's a thriving place, but it was difficult to find steady work there. And so many of them came, they learned English, they were able to move up, that some of them did experience that sense of the American dream of working hard and being able to advance in a way that they didn't feel they were going to have that opportunity where they were, and they are able to send support to their families to help them have a better life there as well. And many of them have, graduated out of being in that meatpacking industry and been able to make better lives for themselves. The audience was of college students and also members of the community. We were very fortunate in that, in terms of actors, we had some students from the class, but the the Congolese were all played by African students. I had reached out to someone who was the director of global programming, and she reached out to the African students, and there was one young woman, she thought this would be a great experience for her and her compatriots, and so she recruited them to all come. And it was a challenging experience because none of them had acted before and been in a play, and there were a whole new set of expectations for them. But they really came through, and having them, even though obviously African is an enormous continent and there are many different subcultures within it, having those students there and having the sound of their dialect was one of the things that I felt really added to the authenticity of the play. And one of the original participants, the interviewees, his schedule was such that he was able to participate. And we had it on a Sunday afternoon, which is a day off for many of the Congolese, and they were able to come, and you could just see in their faces how joyful they were to have their stories represented. They work in the shadows. People don't really know about them. And here they were. Their story was on this stage in a house, a theater house, full of people from the community. And I think that was very affirming for them. It also was wonderful for the students. They're working in all these little pockets, and a lot of times they have doubt about, is this going to work out okay? And one of the things I've worked on over the years is this process of seeing how to put together these stories. And it's always a revelation the day that we have the reading of the play in class, where for the first time they see it all together. And there's always like, wow, we did this, because they don't know what everyone else is doing. And it's a great moment of pride for them. And I think that just increases when they see it on the stage, and there are people who come up to them and tell them, wow, that was really cool what you did. increases their sense of ownership and accomplishment, that they have done this and that they have been responsible for telling a story that's been impactful to other people. Do it. You'll get a lot of support, and even if you haven't done it before, the people at the Facing Project are accustomed to working with folks who are new to this process, and they are really capable in terms of leading you every step of the way and giving you the support you need in order to get to that final product. And I think you will find it's challenging, it's hard, it's not without its difficulties to overcome, but the reward is enormous. It is one of the most rewarding things that I do, and I'm grateful for the Facing Project in giving us the support that we got.